In Brazil, they just said goodbye to the Olympics. Are they about to do the same to their president? I'm Brent Goff, and this is The Day.
Don't expect me to stay silent like a coward. In the past with weapons, and today with legal rhetoric, they try to work against democracy and the rule of law.
Brazil's suspended president says her impeachment trial is part of a coup d'etat. Tonight, Time and the Senate are not on her side. As soon as Wednesday, she could be out of office.
They will realize there was no crime and no need for impeachment.
No impeachment.
Also on the show, the first day of peace in Colombia in more than half a century. FARC rebels agreed to silence their guns and stop fighting the government for good.
Today, more than ever, we want to embrace our countrymen and begin to unite together for a new Colombia. The war is over.
Welcome to the program, everyone. We start the day in Brazil. The country's suspended president, Dilma Rousseff, took the stand in her own impeachment trial. Today, she came face to face with the senators who, in just a couple of days, will decide her fate. Rousseff is accused of hiding a budget deficit ahead of elections 2 years ago. She denies the accusations and describes the impeachment as a coup. Now, it's important to note that many of the senators who will deliver justice in this trial face criminal charges themselves. And it is a fact that was not ignored today when Rousseff addressed the Senate. Take a listen.
I have come to look Your Excellencies directly in the eye and to say with the serenity of those who have nothing to hide that I have not committed any crime. I did not commit the crimes that I am unjustly accused of. Without an impeachable crime, any impeachment carried out by Brazilian lawmakers is a clear attack on the Constitution. The Constitution clearly states that an impeachment is carried out on the basis of a crime. An impeachment process that commits the violent act of removing an innocent president is a coup d'etat.
Well, I'm joined on the line now by Matt Sandy. He's a correspondent in Rio. Good evening to you, Matt. So did Rousseff's defense arguments today, did they make a difference for her case?
I would have to say probably not. No, we're only halfway through the session despite having gone on nearly 8 hours so far. But I think the view is however impassioned and however genuine her arguments were that really most senators have already made their minds up.
Can we say that justice is even possible in this trial? I mean, when you look at it, the Senate is full of convicted criminals, or you have senators who are under criminal investigation right now. The president of the Senate, he had to leave his office in a scandal over his mistress several years ago. He's now facing multiple investigations. Is justice possible?
Well, I mean, as Rousseff would say, it would certainly be a very tainted justice if it does happen. As you say, the majority or a very large number of the members of the Senate are facing their own criminal charges, some of them far, far more serious than anything that she's accused of. Some of them are accused of, embezzling millions of dollars for personal profit. Some of them include, accused of things like murder, where she's accused of these crimes relating purely to the state budget. And she would say certainly yes, it's a tainted process, and that essentially it's politically motivated. It's nothing to do with the the allegations against her is purely an attempt to remove her.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the crime that she is accused of hiding this budget deficit. I mean, is that a crime in Brazil that automatically leads to or warrants impeachment proceedings?
It's not a common crime in Brazil, and essentially until these proceedings began a year ago, it wasn't something anyone considered would be a likely impeachable offence. But however, legally, it does appear possible to impeach someone for that. I mean, this goes back to 20 years ago when Brazil was still battling hyperinflation. They put in some really strong budget discipline laws, essentially. They really put limits on what presidents and what the government could do as regards the state budget. And the suggestion is that she essentially took money from one column relating to state banks and put in another column relating to the government budget, with the effect of making things look rosier than they were ahead of her re-election in 2014. Now that's quite a serious suggestion, but what she says is that previous presidents did that as well.
And let's talk about the woman here, Dilma Rousseff. She is not a popular president now. Even her own political party, the Workers' Party, has basically abandoned her. And yet, you know, she has this very patriotic past. She fought in the revolution. She was in prison. She was tortured. Let's take a listen to what she said about that today.
Sofro de novo com sentimento de injustiça.
I once again feel the injustice and the fear that democracy will be punished alongside me. I have no doubt that this time we will all be judged by history. Twice I came close to death. Once, when for days I was tortured, suffering aggression that made me doubt humanity and life itself.
Duvidar da humanidade e do próprio sentido da vida.
And once, when a serious and painful illness almost ended my life. Today, I'm just afraid about the death of democracy.
a morte da democracia.
And Matt, I have to ask you, you know, why does her record, her willingness to fight, her suffering, why does that seem to not register with the public now? I mean, the public did, after all, elect her to be president twice.
The legislative president twice, and certainly in the early part of her first term, she was very popular. But whether or not that was directly to do with her history, I mean, interesting as her history is as a guerrilla fighting against Brazil's dictatorship, I'm not sure her popularity in Brazil, which is still in many ways quite a conservative country, whether or not her sort of leftist background was ever the root of her popularity, I'm not sure. But certainly it's very interesting that she raises this today, and she's raised this several times over the past month. You know, how much she sees the action against her as akin to a parliamentary coup, essentially, and the parallels she draws between this being her fight for democracy, much as she fought for democracy when she was a young girl.
And Matt, the Senate's decision on this impeachment, it's expected at the latest now, we understand, by Wednesday. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the chances, just the numbers, are not in Rousseff's favor, are they?
No, they're not. The last time the Senate voted on this was to open this final phase of proceedings, and she had 59 votes against her. Now she needs to lower that to 54 or below 54 to avoid impeachment. In other words,
All right, we apologize for the sound problems there. That was correspondent Matt Sandy reporting from Rio in Brazil. Well, earlier this month, Brazil hosted the Olympics. Remember that? Well, Dilma Rousseff, she refused to attend the opening ceremony. For her, that decision was an act of protest because she says the impeachment drive is a coup orchestrated by her right-wing political rivals. But there were not many people demanding Rousseff appear in public during the Games, an indication of just how unpopular the twice-elected president has become. Our next report picks up that part of the story in one of Rio's poorest places.
This is Complexo do Alamão. It's one of Rio's most dangerous favelas. It's a side of the city the rest of the world rarely sees. A cable car is the only link between this impoverished neighbourhood and the rich areas on the waterfront. But it stopped running. Another shooting nearby means authorities have closed it down, cutting off the favela. People's lives are disrupted by the war between drug dealers and police. It's become harder to live here because of all the shootings. They happen every day. Kids just don't come home from school. It's difficult because the cable car often doesn't run. Many residents of the favela support the PT Workers' Party, but not necessarily Dilma Rousseff. They remain loyal to her predecessor Lula da Silva and say under his presidency their lives actually improved. Dilma has no influence here, but Lula was a good president. This behind us, this was thanks to him. But when there are shootings, all the nice stuff makes no difference. Because we can't go anywhere. Ask people on the Copacabana if they know what's going on here. They wouldn't know. Down on the Copacabana, what's the main concern? My biggest worry, and I think that it's something that worries all of Brazil, is the current economic situation. We need a good government here in Brazil. After 13 years of the PT being in charge, we're in a bad situation. In the middle of a recession, corruption, and it just goes on and on. In her own party, Dilma Rousseff is losing support. Her job is being done by Michel Temer, while her fate on corruption charges is decided. Yet it's in the favelas that she still has staunch supporters. I say, get rid of Temer. We're the poor and we don't accept the current government. It's not legitimate. Dilma was voted in by over 50 million people. I voted for her because her policies benefit the people here in the poorer areas. The Brazilian Senate is due to vote this week on whether to formally remove her from office. If they do, Dilma Rousseff would be the first Brazilian president to lose the job through impeachment.
Well, coming up later on the day, could you handle a year on Mars? This is not science fiction. 6 people have just finished a year-long test of isolation on a Hawaiian volcano, a mission of Martian monotony. It's coming up later on the day.